Okay, so the last video showed the null and alternate, just like we did in 8.2. Now we're going to show you how to run the rest of the test. It's very similar to what we did before. So comparing two samples, we're going to be looking into dependent samples, the matched pair test. And your answers are going to look extremely similar to what they were last section. You still need your null and alternate, alpha level, p-value, and then using your alpha level and p-value, you come up with your conclusion. So all those steps are the same. How you have your conclusion is the same. If p-value is less than equal to alpha, you reject a null. If p-value is greater than alpha, you fail to reject a null. So remember, if p-value is less than alpha, rejecting the null means we side with the alternative. If p-value is greater than alpha, we fail to reject, which means we side with the null. That's how you decide which one we feel is true in our situation. So the example we're looking at here, my grandmother is old. She is at the age where a lot of her friends are starting to forget things and act a little different. She is scared she's going to get Alzheimer's disease. One way the doctors test for Alzheimer's is that they have you list as many items as you can for a specific topic. My grandmother thinks she can practice and beat Alzheimer's. Below are two sets of data. One list is from 2008 and the number of items she could list for 12 different topics. The second list is from 2009 on the same topics. The listed numbers correspond with the topics. Run a test of significance. Is my grandmother slipping? Show all work and be 95% confident. So here we have 2008, 2009, and the 34 and the 33, the first two values, they correspond with each other. Whatever the topic was, in 2008, my grandmother listed 34 items. In 2009, she listed 33. So those correspond with each other. The second numbers correspond. They are matched pairs, so that's why we get the name. The order you enter these lists are extremely important. So we start this off the same. We're going to have our null and alternate. So the first thing we need to come up with is our null and alternate. Now we want to know, is she slipping is the question. Is she not able to list as many numbers? So when I have this, I have mu08 equal mu09 for my null. Mu08 is greater than mu09. We want to see if 09 she has less values. She was able to list less topics or items for each topic. Okay. Show all work and be 95% confident. Well, that means our alpha level is 0.05. And now to our p-value. So I'm going to get out of here and go to my calculator. Okay, so this is how you're going to calculate your p-value. So the first thing we need to do is enter our two lists. Stat, edit, and there I have my L1, L2. So L1 is the 08, L2 is the 09. And what we need to do is find the difference. So you could go through and just subtract each one and enter them into L3. 34 minus 33 is 1. 31 minus 27 is 4, and go all the way down. A shortcut to that, once you have L1 and L2 plugged in, a shortcut is letting your calculator do all that subtraction. Second L1 minus second L2. So there's the subtraction. And I'm going to store into L3. So what this does is the subtraction of L1 minus L2, store, and it's going to enter all of our answers into L3. So if you hit enter, there's our data set. And if I would go back to my lists, now L3 has the difference. It did all the subtraction for us. L3 is going to be the list we want to use now. So I'm going to quit out of here, stat, go over to test, just like we did before, and I'm going to go to t-test, just like for the normal averages that we did in 8.2. Now for these values, t-test, you're going to have two data sets, you're going to have two selections, either data or stats. Since we have a list, I'm going to highlight data. I'm going to plug 0. For the matched pair test, this mu is always going to be 0, and that's one of the reasons why I showed you the two ways of writing your null and alternate, at how you can either have the two averages equal to each other or have the difference equal to 0. So that's where that 0 comes into play. For the list, I need to tell it L3. Frequency, either have it be 1 or have it just be left blank. And we had mu 08 is greater than mu 09, so I need to highlight the greater than symbol. and head down to calculate. And there's my values. Again, it has test statistic, the average, standard deviation. The important part here is the p-value. 0.00, we'll round that to 0.008 is our value. Okay, so you're running the same t-test as you did in 8.2 for average, but this time you have to do the difference. You have to do that subtraction first and use the L3. So I'm going to get out of here, go back to my PowerPoint. We had our null and alternate. We had our alpha level. We had our p-value 0.008, and now comparing our alpha level and p-value, our p-value is less than our alpha level. So, since our p-value is less than our alpha level, we reject the null. My grandmother listed more in 08 than in 09. She might be slipping a little bit. So again, since our p-value is less than our alpha level, we reject the null. Rejecting means that we are going to side with the alternative. So our alternative says mu08 is greater than 09. So that means that she is listing less items than she did before, so she might be starting to forget some things. Sad, but there's the example of running the test for the matched pair test.